This episode is a ride. It went from, intrigue, plot, to what the actual fuck am I looking at? Do you see this? This is such a game changer that even if you watch the episode, I should still throw up a spoiler warning because I don't think everybody's fully processed it and we have to like see it again in order to fully appreciate how much the game has changed for better and maybe worse. Going into reviewing all of the episodes for this season, I was going to do like a big literary analysis by looking at the themes and seeing how they match with the characters and how well Rooster Teeth's writers play out those themes using the characters and the plot. But no, I think we're just going to have to do all plot. I think we're just going to have to do all just recaps because this fucking Grimm thing is so crazy that are the themes even relevant anymore? How is this going to factor in? So let me actually do my job now after all this pitter patter twiddle twaddle. I don't know what the term is. Flim flam. I'm gonna pick what I feel are the three most important things from the plot and focus on those for my discussion. First, the possibility that Crow and Robin want to kill Ironwood. At first I thought it would be Tyrion. I thought they would try to kill Tyrion because Crow says, let's kill the man who put us in jail or whatever, or got us to this position, which is kinda Tyrion. If he didn't kill Clover, they probably wouldn't be there. I mean, Robin might still be, actually. But when Crow says that they should kill whoever's responsible, the shot immediately cuts to a picture of Ironwood, which tells me that they're probably going to kill Ironwood, because who would question the ever magnanimous and consistent Rooster Teeth? No matter who wins, if they actually try to do that, it's going to end poorly for everybody. And the reason I say that is they've been making Crow look really stupid for the past 2 volumes, maybe? I can't tell if he's done anything really unequivocally good for years now. Watch his semblance not even be bad luck. I would bet whatever the currency is in Remnant that Crow's semblance is not actually bad luck. It just makes everybody in like a 10-meter radius dumber, including him. And knowing how Crow-related things play out, he's probably gonna lose or have a draw with Ironwood because Ironwood slipped on his metal schlong and shot both of them in the chest. That being said, I do want to see the Crow-Robin team up. I'm not going to ship them yet. Clover just died. There should be a grace period on that ship before we move on to the next one. Shipping aside, it'll be interesting to see interactions between Crow, Robin, and Ironwood because they're all leaders or guardians of some kind. Robin with the Happy Huntresses, Ironwood with the Atlas military, and Crow with Team RWBY. They've all at some point been responsible for other people and watching over them, and they've all had different styles for engaging with the people that they had to watch over. Crow was the stay back and only interfere when things are necessary kind of leader or guardian. Robin is a charismatic figure who leads a political group, and Ironwood is a military leader who's very strict and sees his people as tools of sorts. I think to capitalize on this plot point the most, there should be some kind of discussion between the three of them on how to advance the future, since that's what they're all doing. You know, Crow was watching over Ruby and her team, and, you know, so that they could advance their goals, ultimately Ozpin's goals, I guess. Robin is trying to protect the people of Mantle and make sure that class and racial inequalities are addressed. And Ironwood is trying to make sure that the Atlas military has enough funds to make his arms the same color as his guns. Also, he's trying to save the world through any means necessary. Robin's semblance actually factors into this plot point in a really important way because it presents an opportunity to change the course of events from the direction that they're currently going. Robin has the chance to, you know, like convince Ironwood that Crow didn't kill Clover, and then maybe they could talk it out from there. Or my slippery schlong theory works out, and then Rooster Teeth hires me to do both the actual story for RWBY and all smut and fanfiction. Moving on, Ruby and her group are finally going up to Atlas, where hopefully we'll find Remnant's equivalent of Starbucks. but Starbucks is probably a ship name for Penny and someone from Team Coffee, if I had to guess. So I'll just let that theory go. We've not really seen much of Atlas yet, and we've seen a lot of Mantle, and I think Mantle was really well designed. So hopefully they don't pull like a Mistral with Atlas and just have a bunch of concept art for what goes on in most of this city. Because I feel like there's a really good chance there for them to show like class inequality and just how great it is up in Atlas as opposed to Mantle, and how maybe, you know, this would be good social commentary, I guess. Like, the potential outcome of a Grim invasion doesn't really strike the Atlas citizens as much as it does the Mantle ones, because they're high above the sky, so they think that they're like invincible, whereas the people in Mantle are definitely not. So seeing them just go about their normal day and just walking around buying Starbucks fanfiction would be very poignant for the world of Remnant. I don't want to linger on this plot point for too long because they don't really go into it much in this episode, but I specifically want to see Ruby's reaction to Atlas once they get there, because she's obviously very upset about Mantle. So when she gets to see the other side of the coin, where, you know, the big boys are playing upstairs, maybe that'll spark further indignation in her. I would find that really interesting. And what I would find even more interesting is if she got indignant about the class differences between Atlas and Mantle, and then got like distracted by a really cool weapon in a window or something that a store put on display. And I think something like that would be a good image that encapsulates why class struggles can be so difficult, because people in upper classes and stuff can be really distracted by their own wealth and, you know, not look downwards, you know, on a class level to people who are beneath their station, because they have all these other things to distract them, essentially. So that would be really interesting. Or they could just do what they're probably going to do and just plot their way through Atlas and complain about Ironwood the entire way. Now let's get to the grim elephant in the room of this chapter. This grim is either going to be the worst or best thing that happens to RWBY as a show, because it could be really lame. It would be lame if the talking Grim just took orders from Salem, like she was like, hey Grim, go get me a boy from the butcher or whatever, and then the Grim was like, yes ma'am. On the other end, the Grim could be really cool. Maybe it has like a really great personality. Maybe he or she or they just says really cool stuff all the time, like they finally confront it at the end of the volume, and then they're like, we're gonna defeat you, Grim, and save Oscar. And then the Grim is like, well, your odds of winning are grim. Also, what is this thing's name? It has a name, right? If she made it smart enough to talk, then it must have a name. And I hope that Rooster Teeth came up with names already, because if not, I have suggestions listed here. My personal favorite name on this list is Summer Rose, because if the Grim is Summer, then we can just confirm like, oh, they don't care about the story at all. It's fine. This is a fan fiction of a story that doesn't exist, which is what it feels like already. Now, this Grim's ability to speak, I think, is very interesting, because it's an introvert, right? It has to be an introvert, because it's not, all it said was no, and it had to crack open its jaw to even say that. So that means it hasn't spoken for like days, right? It attacks people all the time, but they never ask it questions. So he's just really uptight in social situations, and all he can say is like one-word things. That would be endearing. Like, maybe this is really a good setup for like a really compelling character arc where the Grim learns how to communicate and like trust people, because people finally want to hear what it has to say, and they don't see it as just some really smart dog that kills people. There's more to it than that, you know. He likes to run and fly and kidnap children. There's so many things that this Grim has going for it, and it hurts that people aren't willing to acknowledge that. I want people to care about Summer. I know the Summer Rose thing seems far-fetched, but don't forget that there's a non-zero chance that this talking Grim is Salem's new lover. He's smart, he's strong, he listens to what she says. Questionable posture, but good enough. I don't know, this sounds like the whole package. That's the only reason I could imagine giving a Grim the ability to talk. Because if they already listen to what she does, they don't need to be able to talk. They're not gonna argue with her unless they want to die. So they're not really adding anything new to the equation by talking, which is why the second half of RWBY should be Grimm attending the ruins of Beacon Academy to become hunters and huntresses of their own. Subscribe if you want more great ideas of that caliber. One more thing about the talking Grimm. Did anyone else think that the team's reaction to Oscar getting manhandled or boy manhandled was a little weird? I get that you're scared and all that, that's fine. I'm not knocking that. I want to talk specifically about Ren, because Ren decides to go full like Attack on Titan on a thing he just found out existed. Boy! Ren did, I think, one of the dumbest things possible for someone in a fight with a Grimm. In other words, a supernatural being that's much stronger than a human. I'm just gonna describe what he did. And this is Ren's favorite move to do, by the way. He does it all the time. He tries to kick his opponent by shooting his swords out of a gun that he has. He had 2 extra layers of better ideas before what he did. And then he was like, no, Levi is Yowie God. And then just went in. Ren kicking instead of shooting or stabbing is the same level of strategy as getting a hydrogen bomb so you could use it as a paddle boat to go sword fight the Japanese in World War II. That does it for the plot, so now we're going to talk about character. Ren seems angry and I don't know why. Can someone tell me in the comments why? I haven't figured it out yet. I assume it's because his girlfriend wasn't nice to him, but she doesn't seem too bent out of shape, right? His negativity was probably making Summer stronger. This bitchiness makes me like Renora a lot less, actually. I can't tell if the problem between them is like political or just personal, because it's been going on since volume 7-ish, and it's going on till now. So it's like, what is the point? Like, are they just disagreeing over like tactics for how to approach the Salem problem? Or is their relationship falling apart? Like, I don't know, it feels really unclear. And I think, and this will be covered way later in my volume review, but I think that there is an opportunity for their relationship to actually have some kind of thematic impact if the vision of the story lines up with the themes well enough in terms of distrust and unity, and if Rooster Teeth is able to make Ren and Nora a microcosm of that whole concept. But let's talk about Yang. I am so happy that Yang solved racism. This encounter of, I don't even know how to describe it. This encounter against some white lady. I think even in this fantastical universe, you know, where there's evil monsters and knights and huntresses and, you know, anime girls saving the planet, there's still room for just good old white lady racism. Like, not even, that's the most realistic part of the show, is that old white ladies are racist and judgmental, but it's always the same kind of old white lady. It's like, oh, those coloreds out there, I don't want anywhere near them. It's safer with the Grimm than, you know, the others. I sit there and I'm like, is this, with my own experiences with racism, it's almost always not like that. Maybe it's different. Maybe it's like, maybe that's the fantastical portion, is racism in Remnant is fantastical in the sense that it is purely stereotypical. The racism, like, they're stereotyping racists in this because they're all like just normal, they're all like assholey old white people. I've seen that so many times. I feel like I've seen this scene so many times before. Just a white lady getting trashed by another white lady for being racist. How many times is that gonna happen in a story? So I don't know who wrote that scene, but in the Blu-ray release, please change it, because it makes me like, I feel bad for racists a little bit. Racists as a group are such a diverse lot, and they just keep getting pigeonholed into these same roles. Like, it really annoys me that there's no affirmative action for racists in acting and in voice acting. It's like they just keep getting those same white ladies to play those roles when you could branch out. That Korean guy at your bank, he might be racist, you know? The Jewish lady that works at the store up the street, she could be racist, you know? You at home, you're special. You can be racist in any way you want and learn how to express that. But Rooster Teeth won't let you if you want to work for them. They only want to let white people play racist roles. How is that okay? I'm gonna be the guy. I'm gonna kick open the door. I'm gonna be the one who kicks open the door for racist everywhere to push the art form forward and allow more diverse forms of racism. I hope I flashed my content warning screen at the beginning of the video, because that stands more than ever now, just to be clear. Real talk though, it annoys me that they keep having racism manifest in these same types of ways over time. Like, it's just people being like, oh, we don't like your kind here, you know, to faunus, or, you know, whatever. I mean, I guess they're at a different point in racism. Like, they're, you know, as compared to like our society. I don't want to say racism is more subtle now, but people are less likely to invoke it directly. And I think that the racism in Remnant is a little more of a callback or a shout out to old school racism, like a throwback track, if you will. And, you know, it's like when they have, you know, the 70s weekend on the radio, on your radio station. Whatever, let me not linger on this point for too long, because I do that a lot. But I think that Rooster Teeth could do could do a much better job of making the racism in Remnant feel less caricature-ish. That is what I'm saying. That's the point I want to make. And I think that Yang shutting down racists in the way that she is like social justice-y in a way that doesn't feel honest to the reality of people like combating racism and all that. And it always ends up with like white people defending, you know, people in the marginalized groups or whatever, and it just annoys the fuck out of me that, you know, first of all, faunus fight for their own rights, and second of all, more importantly, you know what, screw everything I was about to say. If that lady was actually racist, she would not have just backed down like that if Yang told her off in that way. She said something to the effect of like, the faunus are willing to help you whether or not you deserve it. A real racist, the kind of racist that I want to bring to the table in the arts, wouldn't stand for that, wouldn't allow their heritage, you know, being a part of a long lineage of casually and professionally racist individuals, to be stepped on by some random white chick, some random young lady. It would come off as so arrogant if you're like, hey, why are you allowed to be not racist and I can't be my own racist? It's not fair. That's like triple, double back, reverse racism. Anyways, let's move on to how I think the themes are manifesting at this point in the volume. I know we're on episode 2, but I think that Ozpin's interaction with Oscar are going to be one of the defining thematic threads in this volume, based on this episode, and maybe into the next volume as well. Like, I think that, well, the theme for this volume is distrust, or the motif for this volume is distrust, and the theme for this volume seems to be, you can't have unity while there is distrust. And so one thing that's interesting is, I think that the Oscar Ozpin dynamic kind of shows like the dark side of unity in a way, because they have no choice but to unify. Like, even Ozpin himself says like he doesn't want what's happening to Oscar to happen to him either. Like, it's not either that or he's lying, but he verbalizes that he doesn't really want that, and neither does Oscar. And yet they have no choice anyway. They will become one. And like, is that okay? Is that good symbolism that these two have no choice but to be one, so they have to work together in some way? Because, you know, you could broaden that, and this is me making it as strong of a symbol as possible. You could broaden that to the world of Remnant and say like, the people of Remnant have no choice but to move past distrust and be honest with each other in order to unify, otherwise they're just doomed. But the difference is, with Ozpin and Oscar, it's just inevitable that they will become one. It's not inevitable with the people of Remnant. So either, I'm starting to feel like this Oscar Ozpin thing, I have to see it play it out more, but it feels like kind of a weak symbol, in the sense that the relationship between Oscar and Ozpin, or, you know, just Ozpin and whoever he's melding with at that point, is not reflective of the broader message of the story. I know the story's based on Avatar, because you have the guy that, or the person that's reincarnated over and over again and is responsible for saving the world or whatever. But the reason that the Avatar works as a unifying figure is because their goal in life is to blend all four nations together, or bring all four nations together as one, which is something that they do in their actual training by learning all four elements and being forced to relearn over and over again those four elements. Essentially, being forced to unify themselves with the world every single time. That's the whole point of the Avatar. Whereas with Oz, he just takes over a guy and they just have to become one. Instead of becoming, they just are forced to. So I think that's the difference, is like people's agency in the matter. And if the writers are trying to use Oz as a metaphor for the power of unity or whatever, I don't think it's working so far. Maybe they'll find a way, but you know, even if Oscar and Ozpin totally trusted each other, the fact that they have no choice but to become one, even if they decided to accept it at the end and relinquish themselves to that process, they would still be forced to do it, which I don't think bodes well for the overarching message of the story. As a final note, I just want to say that I'm curious to see how the Talking Grimm thing plays out, and I hope that they do Summer's character justice in the rest of the volume, because maybe this could play in with the concept of Salem's henchmen or allies being pawns or tools in her plan, as opposed to like beings with agency. Which is why I think that making the Grimm talk, at least initially, seems kind of confusing, because it is just a pawn still. I mean, hopefully it has an actual character. Hopefully it actually has traits and it doesn't just give one-word answers to everything. Because I think something like that would help the kind of sparse group dynamic of team, whatever Salem's team name is. Anyways, I think that more or less does it for this video. To sum up, racists are being discriminated against. Summer Rose is still my waifu, but for different reasons now. And in future episodes, I'm looking forward to the potential character arc of the Talking Grimm. Hopefully, Rooster Teeth will add more thematic substance to the Oscar-Ozpin unity dynamic. But anyways, this is kind of an abrupt end, but thanks for watching, and really do comment your favorite possible name for the Talking Grimm, because I'm curious to see what people come up with, and if it'll be better than what Rooster Teeth comes up with, because then we could always pitch it to them, and then we can all work together on making this smut fanfiction a real thing.